Everybody thinks they're right about everything. You ever notice that? Everybody's got it pegged. To a certain degree, this place doesn't function the way that most think it does because most are connected to a collective unconscious, which is a safety net program. It's a neural network, beehive, and that is easier to program in a repeatable and predictable fashion. Mostly in this age, in this time between times, and the previous age, has been through media, and that media has slowly instilled the boiling frog of more and more acceptance of repetition of fear. And so the safety net of bonding together in that fear, this is all unconscious, works to have the individual as a group and as an individual perceive themselves to be smaller and smaller and this place bigger and bigger. So they feel weaker and weaker, which leads to more followers following followers, barely men, barely living on a dense form, in a social form. Everyone completely numbing themselves and dumbing themselves down on accident, unintentionally, to the point where they only choose basic religion or money or just a Slavenness. And they very rarely choose the truth or themselves or directness to love. And that's okay. It's not a judgment. But it's those that are in that process that usually think that they got it pegged or that it can't be pegged. And today, I'm attempting to provide some nuance to that. And that it's actually, I'm sure a lot of people have heard the term vibration their whole life. And some are very aware of the Hermetic principles. I'm not going to go too far into that, but one of them is vibration, resonance. But in this vibration, which is a standardized vibration in the collective unconscious, it's there as a safety net, which isn't a big trick. I mean, this place is tricky, but it's not actually a slave ship. It's not a trick. If you completely separate everything and start over by yourself, saying, how can I create this place to be better? I, I suggest everyone start doing that and then see, like, oh, maybe it's not that terrible. Maybe there's just layers and levels to it. And that everyone has a hard time perceiving and communicating to everyone else because we've been taught at a certain level. And so if anyone separates themselves from that level, they go either below or above it. Not better or worse, just different vibration attaches to different frequency, which then sends out information, and you perceive to the state of your frequency. You see what you believe. You perceive what you believe. That's hard to comprehend, but your vibration attaches to frequency, which feeds external of your world, your resonance, your aura, your being, your greater being. Not your higher self or your greatest being, but your embodiment here, your multiple bodies of life here, which is at its core a vibration and a spinning, which everything is. And now, you can take that perception from the inside looking to the out, because most people, maybe not everybody listening to this, if anybody ever does, but most people are taking in, especially in the collective unconscious, from the external in, and not realizing that they're also so powerful. They're creating from the internal out, and the internal out is actually the place to start. Start with your heart. Most people are taking from the external in. So if you follow what I just said about your core vibration, to your frequency, to your resonance, to your aura, and that is then the permeable frame of your world, you're seeing it from the inside out. And what you're seeing is bending and refracting back to you. And the bending around that, actually, the circumference around that is time bending around you, one of the facets of time here. But that you're perceiving that the spherical bend of screen back into your world based on what you're allowing yourself to believe, based on your belief structure at your absolute foundational essence, the foundation of your lower unconscious, of your unconscious state. And your subconscious is projecting that out. And then as the frequency is then through and into your world state, your aura, and that is coming back to you through this place, refracting and reflecting back to you so that you can perceive it. That is then looked upon as truth because it's provable, scientifically tested. You can look at it right here and say, look, this is it. Or you can read it right here and say, see, I told you so. This is what the words say. Or you can go back to a video and you can go back to a video at some point. Somebody, usually the video will say what you remembered it to say. Say, see? But the nuance there is that is in accordance with the vibration of the state that I guess my vibration is giving me a warning that this isn't the best joint right here. That is in accordance with the vibration that you are accepting. Your belief structure is a fixed thing that you must expand. And then as you expand it, the bending of your belief structure at your core is the filter through which you are allowing yourself to be. And when you're allowing because if you change your vibration, your belief structure is not changing, expanding to it, it will eventually fall back to it. Vibration's always, always, always changing, as everything else is. So just because you change it once, you might create a core memory there in your essence or in your water and say, I remember what it felt like. But that doesn't mean because you change it once, you change it forever. You may have expanded your allowance a little bit, but it will seep back into what your belief structure is always. So you have to expand your belief structure and continue to expand your vibration. Around your belief structure is what you're actually allowing. And so if you're trained in a certain system, especially within the collective unconscious, or even in the more smaller programming unconsciouses, then it's going to be very difficult if you don't separate from that to see something else and then stay in the something else. You're going to basically always be fighting with yourself. It's going to be like if you're high on anything, ever, from a doctor or from the hospital or cannabis or heroin or just from meditation. I mean, the word is high. If you're high, which is like a changing of a vibration. If you're high on anything, and then you're also in a social order at the same time. And so many people do this. I used to do this when I was younger, and it's mind-boggling now. It's funny. It's effing hilarious. But you are simultaneously pretending to be not high and be in the social order and like functioning normal and having this internal like grandiose experimental time and somewhat of a disastrous experiment simultaneously, trying to hide from both sides completely because you're not fully leaned into just being absorbed and being high, and you're not fully leaned into being of the vibration of society. So you're a mind divided, you're a house divided, you're a man divided, you're split, and so you're not leaning into either. So you're telling yourself a story that isn't fulfilled, and so you feel out of place because you are out of place because you're at a vibration that is not being met based on what you're actually encountering on either side. You have to pick one. You have to be fully engrossed in the vibration that is truly with you. So when we see what is considered to be like a certain I'm not going to say truth because truth is like an orb. It's based on perception. But um, truth is there and is the all. It's also a little bit tricky in itself because it's slowly molding. Nothing is fixed. It is the core of how and why, but that how and why event occurrence didn't necessarily always happen the same for the same reasons all the time. So trying to pin down truth and then expecting that it doesn't ever mold or morph is erroneous in itself, and that is a thought process coming from a certain stage. Now that takes me to the kind of the point of this. It was 12-minute long intro, but so say there's a totem pole, and the totem pole is the one core subject matter, and it has all of the nuance and all of the beginning layer and the graduate layer, and then the epiphanies and the future developments and all possibilities of what could be based on this one subject matter, say finance or whatever. You can cut it into layers. So as a totem pole tells a different story or tells one story but in different segments, you're seeing the same pole of the same subject matter. And yet if somebody, say they're 2 feet tall, and they only look at eye to eye the face that's 2 feet tall on the bottom of the totem pole, they are seeing truthfully the whole story right there, and is right back into their world of their vibration as accepting, yes, this is truth. And then you do the same thing 3 feet tall, 4 feet tall, all the way to 12 feet tall. So say there's, what was that, 10 different layers of this totem pole. Everyone who's perceiving the eyes of the face of that layer that they are at, that they're looking at on that totem pole, is refracting and reflecting back to themselves based on their world, which is their resonance, based on their vibration, what actually is true and is provable to them. They're not lying. Like the Wall Street guy's not lying. The guy who works at Goldman Sachs is not lying. Now, there might be intelligence or manipulation groups involved there, but they're not necessarily lying on how they core believe and have feedback in their life of what is actually happening. And there's somebody else who looks way, 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 way deeper into like, let's just start at zero. How did Goldman Sachs even come to be? And then they just start going down this process of like, having no team involved, what in the F is actually occurring? And they get persuaded and pulled into what their frequency, they get pulled into a frequency level that is intriguing to them based on the changing of their vibration, based on the information that they have coming in. And that information coming in is also, it's hard to comprehend, but bending based on what they're paying attention to, because that's how this place functions. If you're still with me on this, it's very simple, but I know it sounds like I am talking circles. That individual who started to look at Goldman Sachs with zero and then started to look into things deeper and deeper and deeper will likely find themselves perceiving it as a certain degree, this is incredibly nefarious. And then this is attached to some network that's controlling everything. And then it's all fake. Um, the thing to keep in mind is that that is true based on the level that they are looking at it as. And so the, I'm not going to say highest level because it's not the most mature level, maybe it's the one right in the middle of the totem pole, and any subject matter is always going to be bringing you back to the center of you. And so that you are not fully imbalanced and you are not in reaction. And even if fear pops up, you are not overwhelmed by the fear, but you're receiving the blessings and the lessons of the fear. So that there's a whisper reminding you who you are. So that you remember slowly how great you are as divine, limitless spirit energy. And that this place is, as far as I'm aware right now, one of, if not the greatest blessings there can be, because we're playing with density. So, to give another example, say like sovereign law. A lot of people are looking into that now. I looked into it 15 years ago, deeply, and still somewhat interested in certain periods. But you take someone who's worked in a bank or is a paralegal or CPA, and then you take somebody who's an executive at a bank or a judge, and then you take somebody who's actually given directorate to or is a executive vice president for the IRS, and then you take somebody who is a senator who's extremely influential or extremely close with the Federal Reserve. And then you take somebody who's dedicated their entire life, or 30 years of their life, to researching the Federal Reserve and the UCC and the USC and the ECFR and Bills of Exchange Act and the Sesta KV Trust and the Papal Bulls. And then you take somebody who's attempted to go through the process of declaring their estate and is actually put some actions into applicable wisdom. And then you take somebody who went to jail for trying to stand up for their rights. And you can take it even further to someone that is extremely focused on negotiable instruments. All of those individuals, based on their experience, based on what's actually occurring and the influence that they've had. Barring the slim scenario that some of them may be truly attempting to manipulate others around them on a great stage. Basically, everybody, basically all the time, is seeing the same subject matter and they are receiving it based on where they're already at. And so what your internal vibration is allowing, speaking to your core belief structure, and then that is the allowance for what you see. And you are then looking at the stage of the information, the subject matter of the totem pole of where you are. So you're seeing what is already, to a certain degree, in agreement with you. Again, this kind of feeds into why when the student is ready, the teacher appears. It's the same thing with science and alchemy and medicine and chemical influences and homeopathy. It's the same thing with like literature and movies and music and the deeper meanings. Or you can even go to the artist, and the artist will say, "No, that's not what I meant. It means what the words say. It's not a deeper analogy." Sometimes there's more meaning in there than anyone else will ever understand. But it's based on the level of the totem pole because everybody's receiving the same music, everybody's receiving the same play or movie. But it's where their vibration is and what they're allowing, what stage of life they are in, what spiritual development, um, functional growth period they are currently embodying as their resonance is what allows them to see whatever face on the totem pole they're looking at. And it's really difficult to say to somebody else, no, look at this totem pole. This is what is actually there. It's foolish, really, because it's not taking into effect the laws of cause and effect. So the same thing with political views or people who have contradictory perspectives within their associations of how government or religion or life should function. Um, Sports and politics, whatever team it is, it's everybody's looking at a singular totem pole of whatever subject matter, and they're catching it on the stage, the level that they are. And so very rarely is anyone actually being ostentatiously, intentionally lying. Most people are repeating just what they've heard already. And most people are receiving information, what they heard, based on the level that they are allowing themselves to perceive. And most of that allowance is for their own safety based on the stage they're in of their own spiritual development. It's not a better or worse thing. So we're here to shine our light. And we all have different flows that we must go through. And there is a common story, and there is a common journey, and there is a common theme. There is this hero's journey that applies to everyone every time, but it shows up in a limitless myriad of things as the themes unfold. And most of the themes are written, but the things are up to you, but they're not really up to you if you are being directed by the directive of a stronger pull, a stronger force, a stronger resonance. And so 1% approximately or less are here with absolution. They can't help it. they must shine their light. And another 1% or less are here. They really can't help it. They're playing the part of those that close the blinds, because this is based on balance, based on the requirement to see the whole picture and learn the thing, the nuance of perceiving every level and then not judging the levels, so you can continue to grow and perceive more levels. Maybe one day you will be carving the totem poles for others. So there's a requirement for those that close the blinds. So that imbalanced perspective is then provided in this light density to this embodiment of divine limitless spirit energy that then can find the middle path for themselves, where they find their power in the middle path. You grow much quicker and much straighter because you are not being pulled into a certain direction that takes you too far away from your path. Your energy is already there. It's already written for you. And so most folks go like this, and then eventually they get on a team, which usually is environmental, and then they just stick on that team. But if you look closely, everyone I'm aware of, unless you're in some mystery school, everyone must go until they find that moment, or that the layers of moments in which they just pull back. And when they pull back, eventually, in a singular manner with themselves and love, them, just you and your God, just you and your truth, just you and your allowance of figuring out you, can get yourself back to a humble position as the middle path. And then you just slowly grow. The more you grow slowly in that manner, singularly, with love, with God, the more you have the ability to become rooted in the core truth and move quickly, which gives you the opportunity to express to others and give great love to others and give guidance intentionally or unintentionally to others. One of the things I've found is that very, very few are ever actually lying. Now, there are lies, obviously, a bunch of them. And I think that if there's a core purpose, I think everybody has individual purpose. There's a singular mission, shine your light. Purpose is found through you doing that. And it always stays a little bit in front of you. And it moves as you move to get you back to that middle path place, to get you to your destiny, or get you to the next stage. And through that process, if you honor your gifts, then you're following your bliss. And it's kind of counterintuitive, reverse engineered. Be true to yourself. Start with your heart. But what I've found is that very few are actually intentionally lying. They're mostly feeding back what's been filled into their vessel. And so the real you is this core, I don't know why I'm putting my arm up, this core divine limitless spirit energy, this core pillar of light, or this core pillar of love, of God, of the essence, of everything before. It's you. It's your soul. It's just this core pillar. And it's just this is basically the sun in a pillar. It is love. And it shines light. And it's more far encompassing than anything that we can actually tangibly accept here. And that cannot obviously participate in this, which I currently perceive that this place is a mind, and it functions as a mind, and there's probably many minds, and that this one has these set guidelines, and that we come here to experience growth of this place and growth of ourselves. but our entire self can't come here. So we have around the small, around this pillar of the true us, we have this encompassment, this I don't know why I can't think of words right now, this cylinder. And that cylinder is the beginning stage of what's being allowed to then feed into. It's like a filter. It's what's allowing yourself to be feeding into your world, your vibration, your aura, your toroid, your dynamo, the spinning vibrational fractal of you here in this mind. And then from that holographic projection or that light dancing density, you're blessed with a body, but the body comes from here. And it goes back to here. The body is a gift to you so that you can interact with this magical place, but I don't think all of you is actually interacting here. I think there's a sliver flow that goes through that cylinder at the bottom of the core of you. And so you, as mind here, small mind, connected to the bigger mind, have the opportunity to filter what it is you allow in and out of what you pay attention to. Your mind is your divine attention projecting. And your heart is your intention of that pillar of you, your soul. So your heart is how you access that pillar. It's the prism of your soul. And your mind is a highway of information, data coming in and out. And then a spotlight, small mind here. And I suggest you place the spotlight on your heart, and then you get back to being you, and then you fulfill your mission. But what you place that spotlight on, most people have it fixed on the information highway of their mind. They don't even realize it's just a portal of information coming in. And so they're constantly being programmed. This isn't a scary thing. It's pretty clear to me this is how it functions. So what you place that attention on then seeps into, basically, it seeps into the embodiment, the multiple bodies. It seeps into your world. And so it actually, like, you are what you eat. You are everything that you consume. Everything. That means every breath, everything you look at, everything you hear, everything you feel, everywhere you've ever been, everyone you've ever been around. And it's not a scary thing. That's not I have to get away from myself because I'm messing up and I'm not disciplined enough and I think of all the wrong things. No. But it's good to become aware of this. You've always been aware of it, just at some point you decide not to pay attention to it anymore so you can fit into the collective. But the collective is leading everyone to a place where they have the opportunity to realize who they are. It's a blessing. Everything's a blessing. And most in the collective have been trained to middle themselves to make everyone else comfortable, who's middling themselves to make everyone else comfortable. Unknowingly. Because it's a repetition of fear. Which provides barriers for you to eventually see it. And then desire more for yourself. But when you desire more for yourself, you need to come to that place. Every single thing that you pay attention to on any level seeps into you. It doesn't mean it seeps into you forever and overtakes you, but it seeps into you. Everything you eat, drink, think about, everything you've ever heard or seen in a movie or on the news, or the repetition of the same phrases and the same standard setup and go to the game, kickoff, commercial break, same standard process in every commercial, like parking, clicking buttons on a computer. Everything that you do, everything you pay attention to becomes part of you. The same as one animal eating another, that first animal becomes, in a certain degree, part of the other animal. That's how it works on a level of what you really are and what's actually happening here. You are divine limitless spirit energy. You have the opportunity to be embodied. As you are embodied, at some point it's up to you. Do I want to take responsibility for what's occurring here? Or do I want to stay safe? If you want to stay safe, then you stay in the collective and you're trained to obey. It's not necessarily the right hand path, but it's righter. And like the Joseph Campbell myth, Jungian philosophy, not good or bad. Nothing on the grander stage is good or bad. But what I'm describing is what would be considered more the left-hand path, and the left-hand path can mean a lot of things, like dark magic. But what I mean in the Jungian and Joseph Campbell perspective is that at some point you have to decide, am I going to swing and be the real me in this life, or am I not? Am I going to laugh at all the jokes that are predictable that I've heard 8 million times from society? Am I going to look forward to Super Bowl commercials? Or am I going to sit with myself and stop being so scared of just asking myself, what in the fuck is going on? Am I going to live a life fearing death? Or am I going to live in this life, as this life, embracing this life in this one singular moment now? It doesn't matter what you choose, but you know inside which either one it is. It can't be in the middle. It's one or the other. There's something very clear telling you which side to choose. It's already in you. That's your core you. I don't know that everybody's here to choose the left-hand path. I don't know. But I know that I don't have a choice. And I've come to a place of not just realizing, but attempting to put into friction that those that have chosen the right-hand path and are explaining to others that um, there is no conspiracy, and then those that are in a conspiratorial perspective and are explaining to others that everything is screwed and the whole world's coming down. They're both thinking that they're on different sides of the team and they're both on the same team. Eventually, you come to the place where it's just me and God until I can serve others. And that we're all looking at the same thing, but we're looking at it in nearly different dimensions. We're looking at it in purely different experiences of life. And we're blessing each other with our representation of our characters, our avatars here. But we can't see everything that's going on. We can see the totem pole that we're allowing ourselves to see. And so if you want to see more, the answer is not external. It's not to get more information. The answer is to learn more about yourself. First, look within. It's the same with the Mandela effect. It's all true. It's bending through the story of you. is based on vibration, and nothing is fixed. But a lot of what I just shared doesn't seem accurate or seems like straight crazy guy, you know, make believe vernacular to a lot of folks based on the vibration that they're in. And you can't necessarily say that to everybody all the time, because if you're honest with yourself, you know it's going to hurt their feelings to the point where they shut down. And I don't think any of us are here to point out issues with each other. I think the vast majority are here to learn more and more about ourselves so that we grow ourselves, so that the resonance of that becomes a greater growth for this place and for each other as a whole. And some of us, not greater or worse, not better, not bigger or smaller, but in comparison to each other, some of us are a little bit earlier in certain aspects than others. So some of us can be looking at the same totem pole and describe what they're seeing, while others see something completely different. But they might remember little bits of what was described. And then maybe they go on a journey or two and they come back years later and they see something new on the totem pole and they remember some of the descriptions that have been provided. And they say, oh, that makes a little more sense now. Doesn't mean better. Think about where you were 2 years ago or 10 years ago. I mean, how many folks probably had the inclination to attempt to describe something to you or to me that wasn't, that I wasn't able to receive properly? So, and another thing that's funny is like time is bending around you. So when somebody begins to grow their resonance via their vibration, via their attention and their intention, then they're getting back to themselves and they're growing internally first. As they do that, there is no limit. There is nothing fixed. And so somebody who's maybe perceived as being late to the party or not early, they can, to a certain degree, surpass many on the awareness level of what they're looking at in a certain subject matter or their internal growth in general in the flick of an eye, in one day. It just depends on absolutely how dedicated they are and how open they are and what they're allowing and how connected they are to love. What are they here for? How dedicated are they to truly be their true self? The life is, you're not playing the game of life. You are if you're in the collective. If you're in the safety net, you're playing the game of life because it's laid out for you. Once you separate from the collective to a certain degree, life is doing the same thing it's always done, but now you become aware that it's playing the game of you. Grace is an allowance of yourself to be yourself while allowing others to be themselves, while still remembering that we are all divine, limitless spirit energy as one at the same time. And time is bending around all of us, individually and collectively. It's what you pay attention to grows. And you are the one. Whatever level of the totem pole you're perceiving, in any subject matter. There's likely more. And the answer, as far as I can tell currently right now, is always train yourself to get back to being the true you, which is starting with your heart. If you can train yourself to start with your heart and then put your mind's attention on your heart's intention, you're operating in a limitless fashion. You're removing blocks and frames and ceilings from your internal perception. You're allowing yourself to fulfill your destiny in this journey. Can't force it. Start with your heart and anything is possible. Because the real you is perfect and enormous. And this place is fluid. You're not small. This place is not big. I love you. Prima Voltus Interior.